Welcome to Critical DMG, a podcast about two best friends who might have grown up but never grew out of their love for the Game Boy. We will be playing and reviewing every North American title released on Nintendo's original handheld console. This is episode 16. I'm Tony, and I am ready to kick some sand up on the beach.
And I'm Jeff, and...
The beach episode!
Beach time.
It's the beach episode!
It is the beach episode. Yeah, we're talking about Malibu Beach Volleyball.
Right in the middle of October.
Well, it's summer here, so I'm good.
Oh, that's true. That's okay. That's all right. So it is canon for you.
Yes. But do you want to remind us of what our quiz question from last week was?
I do. So for everyone at home, that would be the Quirk episode. He's amazing, by the way. And the question that episode was doing all of my usual looking around, researching whatever for things related to Quirk. I had stumbled onto an item listing. Actually, it was 2 item listings on eBay for some really, really expensive merchandise for the Japanese version of Quirk known as Puzzle Boy. And I wanted to know if anybody could figure out what those things were. Jeff, did you have a guess?
No, I would assume like arcade game, like a cabinet or something like that, or I don't know. I really have no idea.
It's actually a pair of plush toys.
Ooh.
Yeah, I found them. They're actually really, really cute. One was for the eggplant character and one was for the tomato, Tammy Tomato. And I loved especially that they were soft plushies, but they had the little like rubber hands and feet that some older plush toys will have.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But they were a combined price at the time that I looked at the listing, an eye-watering $6,000 US.
Oh, wow. Those are...
Yes.
That's an expensive plush, but...
They were really nice looking and in great condition with tags and all, but that's a little too rich for my blood.
Yeah, way more than I want to spend on on a plush from Quirk, but
right.
Interesting. With that out of the way, immediate opinions on some beach volleyball. Would you suggest someone to play it?
I'm really torn.
Okay.
I want to say yes. This is a real toss-up for me that I think...
Toss-up?
Like a volleyball
toss-up?
This episode is off to such a good start.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I am extremely kind of torn on it. I would probably say no, but we'll get a little bit more into that and I guess wrap back around at the end. Do you want to tell us more about the back of the box for Malibu Beach Volleyball?
I do, and there is quite a bit to say on this one. Malibu Beach Volleyball. Set and spike against the pros with sand blast in 2-on-2 beach volleyball, Malibu style. You've got all the coolest shots. Bulldozer digs, spring-loaded spikes, power serves, airtight sets, and more. Challenge the world's best men's and women's teams from 4 countries, each with different strengths and special shots. 1 or 2 player action, go head-to-head with a friend or team up against the computer, or go it alone after a practice match. You'll break a few fingers trying to block a USA spike. Power jump serve from Japan via airmail. The action's as hot as the ref's bikini.
Ooh.
What a line to end on.
Yeah, and that line kind of surprises me because last week at the end when we realized that we were playing a volleyball game, I feel like sometimes volleyball games have a reputation, especially newer ones, to be a little bit of fan service. But there wasn't a whole lot of that in this. You know, obviously, Game Boy sprites maybe a little harder, but yeah, it was more cutesy, I feel, than anything else.
Especially for volleyball on the beach. Not just like volleyball sportswear in a stadium or something. On the beach.
Yeah. This game released March 1990. I don't have a whole lot else to say about kind of the background and everything. Do you have anything, or do you want to jump into the mechanics?
Unfortunately, there was not a lot of information that I was able to find about this one. All of the research that I did kind of dug up just the usual that a lot of other people kind of doing a similar thing to what we're doing have already treaded over,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that it did get a release in other countries under different names, and it was made by Tosei, and that's basically it.
Yeah.
Unlike some of the other sports titles that we've covered, it really sort of seems like this one has fallen to the wayside in a way that those ones didn't.
Yeah.
Because it was already hard to find information about those games sometimes, but this one was even worse.
I agree. There wasn't a whole lot that turned up when I was looking, but unclear if that's because the game maybe wasn't received well, or maybe it just fell off, unlike some of the others that we've played.
I think that's going to be the case for a lot of these. The Game Boy library is just so much more vast than I think a lot of people, including us, probably realize. And a lot of those games are just gonna sort of slip through the cracks, which is kind of what the impetus for the show is, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it's gonna happen. This is not gonna be the only game we're gonna have that we're gonna find basically no information on it.
Yeah. With that, I think, let's jump into the mechanics. So a quick breakdown. You're playing 2v2 beach volleyball. So if you're not familiar with the rules of volleyball, more or less you're trying to get the ball over the net and score points, more or less. An X will show you where the ball is going to go. Then you can use the D-pad to move your sprites around. A will hit the ball, and B lets you jump, doing spikes and things like that. So relatively simple controls, pretty intuitive in my opinion. Tony, how far did you get? How, I guess, did you experience the game? Did you play 1-game matches, 3-game matches, men's or women's? How was your gameplay experience?
I played as the women's team for all of my playthroughs. I did try every team, I think. Out of all 4, you have Brazil, Italy, Japan, and the US.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I tried all 4, but I can't remember right off the top of my head because I actually did play this one kind of a lot.
Okay.
Especially compared to some of the other games that we've played. I did it in 3 separate sessions, 1 completely blind. That one was a disaster. The second one, after I refreshed and looked through the manual and stuff, I made it a little bit farther, and I did manage to win my first match for that round.
Okay.
I took a break, I came back to it, and I made it all the way through all 3 matches, and I won 2 and lost 1. So I came in second place.
I maybe had a little bit of a different experience.
Okay.
Beach volleyball is one of my favorite sports to actually play, so that I have played a good amount of it.
That's cool, actually, that you're coming into this game like, you know, obviously you've played most of the sports that we have had games for so far, but I think this is the first one that you have been enthusiastically like, yes, I like this game and I play this.
Yeah. What team did you play the most?
Brazil.
Okay. Yeah, I found it a little interesting that each team does have, I guess, strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
The USA team is by far the strongest.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, Brazil and Japan are roughly equal, and then Italy is the weakest team. So if you're playing as Italy, you're going to have a hard time. And I also found it interesting that when you kind of boot up the game and start to get into the matches, it actually tells you to practice, you need to, pick the US team, play against Italy, and it kind of tells you how to practice and get used to the game, which I found kind of interesting because we haven't really run into that in any other games that I can remember.
Yeah, it is literally just like black text on a white background. It's like a couple chunks of text.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that any of the other games have really given that. It's not technically a practice mode, but it's the closest thing to it. They're pitting you, the strongest team mechanically versus the weakest team mechanically, which I guess counts as practice. I didn't really have a problem after I stopped doing the practice and I just went back to picking whatever team that I wanted to play as. I didn't see that much of a difference. I thought that the Italy team was pretty much the same no matter what team I chose to play against them.
Yeah, I started as the USA team. I didn't know that they were the strongest at first. It just started as that. I guess the first playthrough was about 30 minutes. I did 1-game matches, and I played against all 3 teams, and I beat all 3 teams because
nice.
I was the strongest team.
Oh.
About 30 minutes for 3-game matches. Obviously could take a little bit longer or not as long, depending on how much you go back and forth and how much you're scoring, but that was more or less my experience. I felt like it was strangely easy, and then I realized, oh, well, the USA team is just objectively the best, so it should have been easier.
Now that I am thinking about it, I don't think I ever played as the US team other than maybe the practice mode.
Okay.
Primarily, I was Japan or Brazil, so I guess it would be like medium difficulty or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what the difference is supposed to be, because I had probably just about the same time playing the Italy team as Brazil as I did the Japanese team.
Okay.
And it wasn't like a real noticeable difficulty spike. When I got to the US team, I actually had been thinking about this off the air, trying to think of how to describe the feeling that I was getting while I was playing it. Because it's not that I felt like the game had ramped the difficulty up. The higher difficulty, which is to say facing off against the US team, feels like you're pretty much just going back and forth until the computer either randomly or sequentially decides to like give you one.
Yeah.
Like to like purposely make a mistake so that you can get a shot in or whatever, because otherwise they're just like, no matter whether you hit a spike or you just volley it back, they are just on it, just back and forth until they just, it really feels like they keep going until they go, all right, we'll give them this one.
Yeah. You've done enough.
And that doesn't feel harder.
No, exactly. It almost felt unsatisfying to me.
Yeah.
Because, there were definitely times where it felt kind of janky, the controls. You know, I was under the ball, I pushed A, and nothing. I just didn't hit the ball. So there were definitely times when I felt that. But then there were times when, the CPU just seemed like it, like literally you serve it over, not even the strong serve, like the normal serve, and they just miss it. So I don't really know what that was with like the programming, if that was intentional or what. But there were definitely some times that it just felt it wasn't satisfying because you didn't know why you just scored the point. The computer just seemed like it was like, and gave up.
Right. And one of the things that I wish the game had done better with the controls, which I know is probably just the same thing that we hear for a lot of these games, which is that they're early on in the Game Boy's life cycle. So maybe they weren't really thinking about how to really push the envelope with a game like this. But I just wish that they had been a little more varied in the ways that you were able to hit the ball back, because you can volley it with the A button. You can press B and then press B again to do like a follow-up to try and spike it. But I don't know about you. I don't think in any of the times that I played, I was ever able to control where the ball went. Anytime I hit it, it would go straight forward, no matter what buttons I was pressing after the fact. That already made it feel very restricting. But when you compound that with the fact that you really only have 2 things you can do with the ball, it felt so limiting, and it made it even more apparent when you were volleying back and forth with the high-level computer that eventually they just kind of gave in. They were like, all right, this one's going long enough. They've pressed all the buttons they can press. They just like throw their hands up in the air and let it fall. And so all of those things kind of come together to leave a bit of a sour note on the mechanics of the game.
Okay.
It felt so close. Like so much of the game felt good, and it was so close to being really good, exactly what I wanted, and it fell short. Almost like Wizards and Warriors did, if you remember back to that episode.
Yeah. Allegedly, you could control kind of the direction that you were hitting it.
That's what I saw it in the manual.
I never did, and didn't learn that until, reading the manual after I played. Honestly, I don't know how much I would have used it. you know, a lot of volleyball, it should be kind of the bump, set, spike flow of the game. If you're doing that, then you're kind of like in control and you're actually kind of doing what you want to be doing. But there were definitely some times where, you know, I could see that the opponents were a little bit out of position, so I would spike on the second hit. So there were a few things like that I felt kind of made the game feel good. But then for as many times as that, I would go to spike, the CPU would be positioned to try and block me, and it felt like the block was completely random. I had no idea why. Sometimes they would actually block, sometimes they wouldn't. I guess kind of in real life that happens too, but yeah, that was a little bit of a pinch point. Just, yeah, kind of the randomness of it felt bizarre. And maybe I was just missing something, but that was maybe my biggest sticking point, was you didn't really know why you were winning some and losing some.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention how you would sometimes like vary things by doing a spike on the second hit instead of doing it on the third hit. Whenever I did that, the computer almost always returned, and returned hard.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas when I would do it on the third, 1, 2, 3 spike, I had a lot more chance that they would like fumble or whatever. So it was really weird to see that it was almost like they put more effort into it when I would do it on the second hit, because on the second hit is when they would be like physically diving after the ball.
Yeah.
On the third hit, they would be in a much better position usually. And so you would expect them to be able to return a lot easier. But that was when it seemed like they would just kind of be like, oh my, this ball, what am I going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. That's, I think, my biggest takeaway from it is, while I was winning, there were times where I didn't know why. And, that's not overly fun gameplay when you don't really know why you're winning. In hindsight, I was winning because I had the best team. But yeah, you don't really know why. It's just happening. You said you didn't play the men's at all. You only played women's?
Correct.
I wonder how you would feel, because men's is, I think, a bit faster and maybe a bit like of a harder setting, but the gameplay is a little bit faster and stuff like that. So
okay.
I wonder if that would also potentially change your opinion, because one thing I did notice with women's is there was a lot of time where you were waiting for the ball to come back down and you were just kind of standing there not doing anything. And there was definitely some times where it kind of felt like a little bit of a slog to get through it. Because, yeah, you were just waiting for the ball to come back down from whatever.
Huh. I didn't know that. I actually thought that they were both the same. I thought it was literally just an aesthetics choice.
So playing men's, it felt like it was maybe a little bit faster, but I wasn't 100% sure. And then the manual does mention somewhere, it says, in the women's league where the action isn't quite as fast. So it doesn't explicitly say that men's is faster, but I take that as women's league is slightly slower, men's is slightly faster.
I do remember reading that now. Okay, you're right. So maybe the women's league was like an easy mode instead of the faster speed of the men's league. I don't know. Like I said, I played the women's for every match. So, interesting.
Yeah, it didn't feel too much different from the time I was playing, but I guess theoretically, the more you know.
Sure.
So I think that's all I have for the mechanics. Is there anything else you want to throw in here, or?
No, I think that the only other thing was that the controls did seem to fight themselves a little bit sometimes.
Yeah.
It was definitely an issue where when you wanted to be diving for a ball, if you were moving and tried to press the A button to do the dive, it would instead make you like pop, like try to hit the ball. And you had to be like fully stationary before you hit the A button to make yourself dash. That was kind of annoying. And I think the biggest catch with the mechanics is the fact that, and this is something that I do think, for the record, that they handled pretty well, but you're controlling both of your players one at a time, and it's just kind of trying to guess which player is closest to where the ball is gonna be or currently is at, and they give you control of that player. There were definitely times where it gave me control of the player at the other end of the court.
100%.
And then I would be running to the ball, and it would send the player who was like literally standing right next to where the ball was going to go to like the other side of the net. And
yeah,
I don't know what was going on there, but like, honestly, it didn't happen enough to like ruin the experience for me in any way. It's just something kind of worth noting at the end here.
Yeah, when the ball is on the other side, so when the other team is hitting it, you kind of control both players sometimes, but sometimes it's only one. And then, yeah, when the ball is coming to your side of the net, it tries to pick whichever one it thinks is best. And sometimes it just did not work very well. But at least I was able to, most of the time, get to a point where I would just kind of hard force it, like put one of my characters or players in the center of the court and the other one would be off the court, but at least I knew which one I was going to control. So worked around it, but yeah, it was a little clunky.
Yeah, it clunky is exactly the perfect word to describe it. Like, charmingly so, I will say, but definitely something that you would have to get used to.
Yep.
All right, I think that's it for me.
All right, that's it for me as well. Let's have a quick ad break.
Thank goodness. Ad break.
We know that a lot of people listen to podcasts just like ours to relax at bedtime. Here at Critical DMG, we do our best to ensure that the charm and good vibes are provided at maximum strength. You can tune into our show, tune out for the night, and leave us on while you get some sleep. With Critical DMG, the rest is easy.
Are you making a Game Boy game? Awesome. But, how does it sound? 'Cause if it isn't something like this, or maybe like this, or possibly something like this, you might want to do something about that. And I know just who can help. Tip Top Tomcat specializes in authentic Game Boy audio that's been used in over 50 projects so far. If you need something quick, you can find bundles of pre-made Game Boy audio assets ready and waiting on tiptoptomcat.itch.io. But if you need something more custom, reach out directly by emailing thetiptoptomcat@gmail.com with inquiries about commission availability. And remember, you don't want your Game Boy game to just sound good. You want it to sound tip-top. And we're back.
So back.
I have to say, and I think I've only missed this like in a couple episodes. I tried not to like quantify it on myself and overthink it, but I'm going to start with the music here.
Shock.
And I have to say, it's pretty bad.
Agreed.
I do like the jingles that are there for when you win or lose a match. Like all of the little like ancillary music that is around that's there to just kind of fill in the cutscenes and stuff like that. I think those are all pretty charming, but the loop that they have that plays when you're actually in a match is not that great.
100%.
Especially because you have to hear it so many times.
Yeah, I have the exact same notes. The music was very bad. But yeah, when you're switching courts, the judge kind of swings her arms around and it's like a little like it's a good little jingle, but the music just is not good.
No, and it's only one song.
Yeah.
The whole time. It doesn't change even in the final match, you know, of the three. If you're going to be against the last match or whatever, maybe do a more intense track or something, but no, it's the same song for basically a half an hour almost.
Yeah, I ended up turning it off for all my playthroughs after the first one. So at least you have the feature that you can turn it off in game. So that's kind of nice.
That's true.
I would say turn it off. It's not worth having.
No, if you've got some jock jams of your own for the beach time, just put those on instead.
I also noticed the title music just cuts off when it goes to previewing the games. If you stay on the title screen for too long, when it starts previewing the games, it just cuts off. And then even if you go back to the title screen, at least for me, it didn't come back on, which was kind of awkward.
The attract mode is so weird about that. You would think that they would just leave it going because they're showing you footage anyway.
Yeah.
But no, it just goes quiet. It's kind of eerie.
Yep.
I left this for the aesthetic section. I guess I could have talked about it in the mechanics, but I felt it was more relevant here. We talk in the mechanics section about how there's an X that shows up on the ground that is sort of supposed to signify to you like the trajectory of where the ball is kind of going to land. It's not exact.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like the general area that the ball is going to land when it gets back to your side or whatever. I found it more, I guess, important to watch the ball's shadow instead.
Okay.
And I had a lot more success by doing that than watching the X. I almost feel like the X is kind of superfluous.
Interesting.
It definitely got to a point for me that I was seeing the X and glad that it was there to kind of shepherd me to where I needed to move my player at least. But once the shadow came to my side of the court more, I kind of wish it would have gone away and it would have just been the shadow. Did you feel the same, or were you glad that the X was there all the time?
I would say I liked the X.
Okay.
I didn't use the shadow too much.
Oh, okay.
I primarily would just put my character on the X and then watch the actual ball. Once it got close enough, I would hit it. If the X went away, I think it maybe would have been a little bit jarring for me, but I could see that. And the shadow was also very prominent. Interesting that, our visual cues were a little bit different there.
When I found myself specifically trying to like stand on the X and be like, okay, this is where I need to set up my player and get ready to hit the ball, I would miss. It would be, no matter whether I tried to do a spike or I tried to just do a regular volley, I was consistently missing.
Interesting.
And so I would sort of stop watching the X and just watch the shadow and try to position myself that way. And I had a lot more success.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's why there were times where, like I said, in the mechanics that it felt a little janky or a little clunky and I would just miss the ball. Maybe that was happening to me as well.
It could have been. Speaking of control over the ball, did you, when you were spiking, have a hard time getting a read on like when the jump height was based on where the ball was in the air, or did you not really have that problem? Because I think it reads pretty well, even though the ball doesn't like change shape or anything or get any sort of different look. But I'm curious to know if you had a hard time with it.
I didn't. I thought the visuals for that were pretty clear when I was at the net. When I was trying to do a jump serve, I don't think I got a single jump serve. One, I didn't try too much, so I'm sure the visuals weren't too bad for that. But yeah, I found for the most part, it was relatively clear and easy to read kind of when to hit the ball, when to jump, all of that.
That's funny. I use the jump serves as kind of like an ace in up my sleeve, because a lot of the times when I would have control of the ball, had already done a couple volleys and was setting up to hopefully score a point, doing a jump serve was a much higher chance that they would flub the return.
Oh, yeah.
So I tried not to do it too much, but if I felt like I was in a good position, I would try, because it was actually pretty easy since I sort of got in a rhythm. Like I kind of got a good estimation of where the ball comes down is when I need to be at like the apex of my jump to hit the ball.
Yeah, that makes sense. I did like when you switched courts and you were looking kind of at the crowd. I like that they threw like just a little Activision ad on the back back wall. I don't know. It was just like a little cute thing that I thought was a nice little Easter egg, or I like that.
I love that changing courts, just like in tennis, doesn't actually affect anything.
Yeah, exactly. You go from looking at the ocean to looking at the crowd.
Right.
But it doesn't change anything at all.
I mean, I guess that's more than tennis actually did, but like, it was still funny that it doesn't do anything at all.
Right, and it gets its own little jingle. It gets its own little kind of cutscene.
I love the cutscenes, actually. Speaking of those, I thought that not just the ref, because I think the ref was really cute. I like the swinging of the arms for when it's time to change court. I think that was fine. The text was readable in all of her referee messages. But I really liked the depictions of the teams when you were prepping for and in the aftermath of a match, when you were showing the two teams about who was going to be facing in that match. I thought those were cute sprites. And then when you either won or lost a match, I thought were really, really cute. I thought it was really cute when you lost and it just says bummer.
Yeah. And I liked that the wet ref, typically she has sunglasses on. If you win the match, she doesn't have sunglasses on and she winks at you.
I know. She's so impressed.
Yeah. If you lose the match, she still has her sunglasses. Not impressed at all. I was a little sad that there wasn't more difference in the actual sprites.
Yeah.
Because they had, I don't even know what you would call it. I guess like the prep screen before you start the match. Each player kind of had a different look and all of that.
Yeah.
But the actual sprites were just the same sprites. So
yeah, all three of the teams except for Brazil pretty much look exactly the same.
And Brazil's the same, just a little bit darker skin tone. So
yeah, they just swapped the skin tone for the light green instead of the white.
Yep. Which was a little sad, but
it was nice. It was nice that they did at least that much, but
yeah, for sure.
That was it. They didn't change up really hairstyles or patterning on the swimsuits or anything. It was literally three teams, USA, Italy, Japan, pretty much all look the same.
Yep. Yeah, so overall, I was really happy with how the game looked. Yeah, the sprites being a little different would have been nice, but ultimately not a huge deal.
Yeah, especially because you're moving around so much and are having to keep an eye on where the ball is going and where the opposing team is and the net and everything else that you're not really keeping an eye on the aesthetic part of it all that much when things get really heated.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll take just a minute here to say, we were in the beginning, the back of the box is talking about how hot it is or whatever. There is nothing scintillating about this game's presentation at all. They don't focus on that. They don't make it a big deal. And the art is never really depicted in that kind of way.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of appreciate that. I just don't think that was the vibe for the time.
Agreed. However, I did find it kind of interesting. The manual or the instruction booklet was really devoid of images or really any storytelling or anything like that, which I found a little interesting because, again, typically beach volleyball, it has a certain vibe, it has certain things. I was kind of surprised that the manual just was bone dry, no images, no storytelling. It was just very much so, this is how you play the game.
I think that the game overall is kind of like that. When you start the game, you see the Nintendo logo flash, and then bam, title menu. When you get into the team selection and all of the setup that you're going to do, it's just text on a plain background. All of the courtside stuff and the cutscenes and all of the pre and post game, that sort of stuff is really cute. Other than that, there are no real bells or whistles or any other, it's a beach tournament, but they don't show any kind of celebration or, maybe a podium.
Yeah, no trophies. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's none of that. So it's kind of weird. There is a lot to like about the look of the game, but as far as any sort of character building or the typical like sports storytelling that you might want from something like this, it's just totally devoid of any of that.
Typically, I don't care about storytelling too much in, a volleyball game, but I feel like of all the sports games that we've played, this lends itself the most to having a little bit extra story or something.
Right.
But oh well.
Especially for the time. And I mean that like in the 1990s, and this is, I had found out from research on this particular topic. This was a time when like volleyball, beach volleyball was kind of like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of international tournaments and things like that. And so it was sort of having a moment, I guess you could say. This was definitely not the only volleyball or beach volleyball game that was in circulation at the time. So it's really even more, I guess you could say, disappointing that this one is so kind of bland.
Bland, but also not bland. It's like a bizarre mixture of, they do some things really a little bit extra, like they add in these little bits that are quite nice, but then there's also a void at some points, which is, I don't know, it's an interesting, I guess, juxtaposition.
It's like unwrapping a really tasty piece of candy with like the most boring paper on the outside. Like you would never know that the candy on the inside is actually yummy because it's just like plain paper or whatever that you can't see the interior of. That's what this feels like.
I think I'm happy to leave the creative discussion there if you are.
Yeah, I am ready to wrap back around. We were both up in the air. Mia maybe yes, you maybe no. Go ahead and give me the final verdict for you here.
I'm still very torn. Typically after we've discussed it a bit more, it kind of, I don't know, shores up my thought. I found myself being a little bit bored while playing, but not so much so that I wanted to stop. And it was one of those, I continually found myself kind of having fun. So maybe that's a good sign. Yeah, I would maybe, I'm still very on the fence. I think if you like volleyball, if, that's something that you have any interest in, I think it's probably fine. I think it's good enough. I think it would probably get boring pretty quickly. I don't know if I would be sinking hours and hours into it, but for an hour or two, I think it was fun enough.
Definitely for the like half hour burst that playing through a single tournament of this game is pretty much worth, I would recommend it. I think I had more fun with this than I expected, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I think comparing it inevitably to the other sports titles that we've already played, this was more like what I wish tennis had been.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I could see that.
Like you're managing two players instead of just the one player. There's a lot more mobility, like you do have a dash to save the ball when things are bad.
Yeah.
And it just felt more responsive, and that I was enjoying the back and forth flow more in the same way that I enjoyed getting from tennis, but more frequently here.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like I have a couple moments here on playing through this that will show up in the footage that were just really cool, like really fun volleys that I thought I was going to drop the ball and I saved it and it went back and forth, and that really made the experience a lot more enjoyable than a lot of the other sports games that we've had so far. This one's probably the best of the sports games so far, unless we're including Motocross Maniacs, maybe.
Yeah, I could see that.
Worth the batteries.
Maybe worth one battery for me, but...
Jeff says maybe if your batteries are dying and they're only going to last 15 minutes anyway, then it'll stop after 15 minutes and the pain will be over.
Yeah, exactly. a new tier of suggestion.
Oh my God. Are you ready for the quiz?
Let's do it. So I'm currently sitting at 81%. I'm scared because with the lack of information on this.
Yes.
I'm interested to see what you dug up.
I think I texted you prior to the recording the day before to be like, I am worried about this quiz.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, all right. Malibu Beach Volleyball quiz. Question 1. A print ad I found for some of Activision's 1990 Game Boy games hype up 3 of its releases that year: Malibu Beach Volleyball, Heavyweight Championship Boxing, and Ghostbusters 2 all share space on the page. Each of them are given like a short blurb to sell you on their super amazing game qualities. Ghostbusters 2 is even called, quote, the best Game Boy graphics ever.
Ooh.
I know. So, Malibu Beach Volleyball gets the highlight of, quote, first and only Game Boy volleyball game. Was this statement true or false for the whole year of 1990?
Oh. I'm going to say true. It's one of those, I want to say true, but I feel like there's that like phenomenon where people just release very similar things at the same time for no reason.
Right. Like a glut of volleyball games.
Yeah, but I can't imagine that. And I feel like thinking back on the list that we have, I don't remember seeing a whole lot of volleyball. So I'm going to say true that it is the only volleyball game for 1990.
It is true.
Let's go.
The ad also calls Heavyweight Championship Boxing the first and only Game Boy boxing game, and both of these were true at the time, but for Malibu Beach Volleyball, it would actually continue to be true for a long time after that, because despite having a lot of other sports games that we're going to get to play, we will not see another volleyball game on the Game Boy at all.
Oh, wow.
Like, not just beach volleyball, any volleyball. The next volleyball game for the Game Boy doesn't come out until the Game Boy Color.
The more you know.
Yeah, it's like all the way in 2000.
Yeah, that seems a little crazy to me. I couldn't imagine another one coming out so soon, but having none in the, 500 titles is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that also includes, like, any sports compilations for, like, Olympic Games or whatever that might have come out. Because there is a Summer Olympic Games on the Game Boy, but volleyball is not one of the events that's in there.
Shame.
Right? There you go. First one, as always. Ready for number 2?
Let's do it.
Question 2. Malibu Beach Volleyball may have been the only Game Boy volleyball game for its time, but it wasn't the only volleyball game, period. On the NES, just a year prior, there had already been a similar beach volleyball game even, in the title Kings of the Beach. While the games do both feature 2-on-2 volleyball in the sand, Kings of the Beach wasn't just different because it follows the more typical side view of the play area, it got a release on other systems. Which of these NES contemporaries also had their own version of Kings of the Beach? Was it A, the Sega Master System, B, the Atari 7800, C, MS-DOS, or D, it was released in an arcade version?
I want to say the Atari 2600 because the answer is always the Atari 2600, but that's not an option.
Did it come out in the arcade, on a console, or on a home computer?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a shot in the dark. I'm gonna say the arcade. That was D, right?
Yes, D was the arcade.
All right, that's what I'm gonna say. I really want to say Sega, but I'm gonna say the arcade.
It was C, MS-DOS.
Oh, MS-DOS.
Yeah, can you believe it?
I mean, I know you wouldn't lie to me, so yes, but yeah, that's interesting.
It was actually developed for the MS-DOS and the Commodore 64 as well as the NES, and all 3 of those versions were released in 1989. But the NES version was published and released by Ultra Games via Konami, if you'll remember them. But the other versions, so the Commodore 64 and MS-DOS, were handled by Electronic Arts.
Ooh, EA. All right, well, one for one right now, or 1 for 2. I don't know. 1 right, 1 wrong. Hopefully, question 3 treats me a little better.
Okay, question 3. In the write-up for this game in the pages of Game Player's Strategy Guide to Game Boy Games Volume 1 from September of 1990, there is a mention of which world teams you can choose to play as and how they have their own skills and playstyles. We covered that in the mechanics section.
Mm-hmm.
In that small section of the write-up, the writer also drops a parenthetical about which other, quote, top volleyball powerhouses of the time were not included in this game. Which of those places are on that list? A. China. B. Cuba. C. The Soviet Union. Or D. All 3 of these were on the list.
Oh.
This was, like I said, it was in the 1990s. There was a lot of international championships, and the teams that were here were some of the ones, and there were some other ones that were not included.
I definitely think USSR, but I also feel like China would probably be good as well. I'm going to go D. I think China and USSR make too much sense. So I'm going to go with D, all of them.
It was D.
Yes.
The actual line is, quote, you can select either the men's or women's teams from one of 4 countries, the US, Brazil, Japan, or Italy. And then in parentheses, top volleyball powerhouses such as China, Cuba, and the Soviet Union are absent. And from what I was able to find in research, this pretty much tracks with high-level World Volleyball Championships for that time. The very first edition of the International Volleyball Federation's World League tournament featured teams from the US, China, France, Brazil, the Soviet Union, Italy, Japan, and the Netherlands. Rainbows and stars.
The more you know. Who would have thought we would be talking about international volleyball in the 90s on this podcast? But
I know. I really hope everybody at home enjoys this as much as I do, because this was a difficult quiz to get material for.
Well, I went 2 for 3.
That's true.
So I'm still 80%. So I'm at a solid 80% right now. So didn't hurt the percentage too bad.
Hooray. For
everyone listening at home, what's their question for this week?
Right. Speaking about the people at home, my question here is, a Famicom volleyball, and Famicom being the Japanese original Nintendo system, for those not aware of that, a Famicom volleyball game came out within a couple years after this game did, and was more squarely aimed at young kids and not fans of sports on the beach. A huge license and only available in Japan, this volleyball game featured a handful of fan-favorite characters from the usual umbrella of popular animals playing with colorful balls on an actual court. But which licensed property do those characters come from? Jeff, any ideas?
Not at all. I understand all of the words you just said, but putting them together in those sentences, very interesting, we'll say. Yeah, we'll find out next week what was playing volleyball.
Thanks for listening to Critical DMG. If you would like to support us further, please leave a review wherever you get your podcasts and maybe recommend us to a friend or anyone else you might know who would like the show. It really helps us out, and we appreciate it.
That brings us to an end of our Malibu Beach Volleyball, and apparently our volleyball at all on the Game Boy.
Sad.
Well, maybe not super sad, but
I liked it. I would have liked to play a better volleyball down the line.
Yes, of the sports games we've played, it was very solid. But we'll see you next week when we talk about Revenge of the Gator.
Oh,
pinball?
Yes, pinball. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
I have not played Revenge of the Gator yet. It's been on my short list of games that I want to get to because I do like pinball a lot. So, that's going to be a good one.
I feel like I'm very polarized with pinball. I feel like sometimes I really like it and sometimes I really don't. So we'll see which camp Revenge of the Gator falls into.
Right.
Thanks everyone for listening, and goodbye.
See you next time.